installment in the how-to series. By that, we mean learning how to do specific things, the topics we've picked up. And our goal for this is that you would pick up one thing that you would be able to bring back into your contact center, or in this case, into your home and utilize. Um, I, this webinar is sponsored by Vitech and MindSight. Both organizations, Vitech located in Kansas City, MindSight in Chicago, both organizations are committed to successful implementation of solutions. It is not just simply the old book in a box and a set of taillights, which is the salesman's car as he leaves, but the idea being that our organizations are committed to the successful implementation and usage of the technology that we sell. I would like to ask you to join me in welcoming Kim Morgan, who's going to cover the next slide before we just do a little bit of housekeeping. And Kim, I'm not seeing you if you are there. There she is.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon. This is just a little rundown over the tools in WebEx. If you see on the right side of the WebEx window, there are a whole bunch of tools and kind of options you could play with. This is just an overview. You can chat. So on the bottom, you can send a question or a comment directly to the panelist that's speaking or the entire panel. The entire panel is viewed on top, so all four of us will see it, and somebody will address your question. You can raise your hand, just like school, I guess. And then the last one I think is the coolest one. It looks like a little megaphone, and you can actually respond to questions. So the little icons are a hand, a check box or a check mark, an X, and then a person walking slowly, a person walking quickly, and then everybody's favorite emojis. And so you can you can react as you see appropriate with those. And so that said, I'm really excited to hear what Vince and Clay have to say.
Well, thank you. And just the fact that that one looks like me, there is absolutely no intended resemblance between that little bald emoji and with the glasses. All right, so a little bit about, I'll do a self-introduction. So let me start out with saying, by the way, that dog is not even our dog. We do have three dogs, and they could go crazy at any moment if somebody rings the doorbell or a truck pulls out. Just about 2 minutes ago, um, before we got on, a truck pulled up in front and the dogs just about went out of their mind. But this one was a neighbor dog that just happened to come by one day, and I walked him back to his house, and he was just a cool dog, so I thought I'd get his picture. So I feel uniquely qualified to be able to discuss this topic today because Vitech virtualized our entire organization over 10 years ago. So while for many people working at home full-time is a new experience, we've been doing this for a little while. And there are lots of things that we've learned and we hope to be able to share with you during the course of this presentation today. And let me also introduce Kleid Gjataj. And Kleid, please provide a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. So I've been doing contact center and collaboration consulting for about 16 years. And those kids in the picture are actually my kids. I didn't take a picture of my neighbor's kids, just to clarify that. So, I mean, I've been doing collaboration consulting for 16 years, right? I worked with a variety of customers, some big, some small. I've been fortunate to have been able to work from home a couple of days a week for the past 12 years. So even though I haven't worked from home full time, being able to work from home for 12 years part time has really helped me understand what it's like to work from home, and also helping multiple customers setting up their work from home programs, both from a technology perspective and from a business practice perspective. has really helped us grow and support our collaboration practice. So my turn, right? So I go first, and then Vince is going to take over from here. So we're
Yes.
based out of Chicago, and right before the lockdown, we usually go out to dinner with my family about once a week, right? So right before, 2 days before the lockdown, we ended up going to a Chinese restaurant, right? And the fortune cookie you see on the screen was actually my son's fortune cookie, right? May you live in interesting times. And we all got a laugh out of it, right? Like we're just about to go into lockdown, and that's the fortune cookie he gets, right? We all knew that things were never, going to be the same. And, I strongly believe that this experience of, is going to affect the way we work, the way we do business, and I think it's going, at the end, is going to affect the global economy in the long term. Once employers see that people can effectively work from home, a lot of us are not even going to go back in the office, right? So once you see that you can have this video meetings face to face, and you can collaborate, and you have the technology at home to successfully do work and skip all the commute time, a lot of employers are going to make the choice to keep their people at home longer term. And I think a lot of things are going to change. Like, for example, I don't think people are ever going to go into a meeting and handshake. Like, I think handshakes are a thing of the past.
There we go. There's our handshake.
So,
There's our new handshake.
yeah. So if you can move on to the next slide, Vince, I'd appreciate it. So my wife's a teacher, right? And my kids are home all summer. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm no stranger to working from home. I work from home, and I work from home with a house full of people. I really thought I was prepared for this lockdown. I've done this before. I've done it in the summer. But the first day, let me tell you, the first day was very interesting. We all kind of got set up. Everybody grabbed a room. So I was in the basement. And I was really hoping to get some work done. I was really hoping to sit down and work for a couple of hours. The kids were already set up. In the first hour, I was probably interrupted over 10 times, right? And I can tell you that fourth grade math and second grade math are much harder than I remember them. At some point, my son even yelled at me for being too loud, right? Apparently, he was on a conference call, and I was being too loud on the room next to him. And I swear that I think my kids have more calls on their calendars than I do nowadays, right? The other interesting thing is that once I started doing research about this topic, all the ads in my Facebook and Instagram feed turned from products I was looking for, like shoes, whatever I was shopping for. So once I started doing research, all the ads in my Facebook turned about being alcoholic beverages, right? For some reason, I think there is a high correlation between working from home and increased alcohol consumption. I thought that was very interesting. So we're all dealing with this. We're all this is not a normal situation. Like, I have a neighbor that she's a psychologist, so she is bound by HIPAA law. So I see her in her car all the time, and she's taking all of her patient calls from her car because it's the only quiet space she has in her home, right? I've ended up working out of a closet in my basement. I know Jane, our marketing director that's on this call, sometimes goes and takes calls out in her car. We all need to adapt, right? Like I said earlier, this can be longer than we expected, and it will eventually change the way you work forever. Can you move over to the next slide, Vince, please? So we just really want to take some time today, go over the best practices. First off, we're going to cover setting up boundaries and setting up a routine, having a separation between a working space and the rest of the house, the technology that your company has provided, and the training would also play a major role in your success at working from home. And then I'm going to hand it over to Vince, and Vince is going to talk about team communications and collaboration and some of the mental and social aspects, tied to working from home. Did you want to add something there, Vince, in this slide about your topics you're going to cover?
No, let's just keep rolling, Kleid. I
All
think.
right, perfect.
All right.
So next slide, please. So the first thing is identify an area of your house that's unused and that can serve as an office. If you are sharing your house with other people, I think it's important to have a door that can provide some noise reduction, right? Having a separate area of the house where you go to work, I think is also going to help you mentally. It's going to send you signals mentally that when I'm in this area, I'm here to work, and help you cut off all the other distractions. I usually get antsy, like if I'm in the space for too long, like I have a tendency to get up and take my laptop and maybe work from the kitchen for half an hour. So it's okay to do that. It's okay to move from around your house and work from different spaces, but as long as the majority of your time should be in your dedicated working space. The other thing that's important that I actually had a hard time with this when I first started working from home, it's having a start and a stop time, right? A lot of people feel like they don't have to commute, they're not getting enough done, so they end up working 12 hours a day. Like I know in the beginning when I was working from home, I literally had my laptop in front of me for 12 hours a day. Even when I was watching a movie at night, I was always working. So try to have that set time, that set schedule for those work hours. If you're a contact center agent, usually your work hours are set either by a workforce management software or by your supervisor, right? And as contact center agents, you have set hours, you have goals, you have reports. So it's much easier to show your supervisors how productive you are as a contact center agent because all the reporting is already built in into this contact center platforms. If you are not a contact center agent, what I like to do is having productivity goals, right? So what I like to do in the morning is basically write these goals down and then kind of check them off during the day as I'm going through it. It really helps you stay honest with yourself, and then it shows you that you have accomplished something throughout the day. And it helps you turn off at night when you need to turn off outside of those scheduled hours.
You know, Kleid, let me comment on that. For people who don't have a dedicated workspace, I think it's really important that you physically then take your laptop, close it, turn off the monitor. Really, you know, although you may not have that physical boundary, make it something physical where it's over. And I've got to say, our team, when we first did this, I'm one of those people that if I think of something, I'll send an email on it because I hate having a to-do list in the morning of things that I have to get cranked out that I wrote down from the night before. So I would send an email at 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock at night, who knows? And I'll be darned if I wouldn't get a response. And so this idea of people working too long when they're at home is absolutely right on. I think you've got to protect that space.
Yeah, and like I said, part of it is mental, right? Like a lot of people nowadays are keeping the routine the same. So when they wake up in the morning, they go through the same routine as if they were going to work. And that also helps trigger the signal in the brain that I'm going to my office now, I'm going to work, right? So that morning routine, I think is very important, and keeping it the same with what you're doing when you're going to the office, initially it's gonna help you make the adjustment. And I think that brings us to another point where if you are participating in video calls like I'm doing right now, it's very important to follow the dress code that your company has provided, right? If something was too offensive to wear in the office, it shouldn't be okay to wear in a video call, especially if you're chatting with customers, right? We still have to treat our customers with respect and show them they're important. So, you know, having that making sure you're not wearing something inappropriate in video calls is also crucial to being successful. The other thing that really has helped me in the long run is this idea of I am at home, but I'm okay. I can take breaks and I can stay active, right? So if I need to go for a run in the middle of the day and I can't, if my schedule allows it, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. if I need, if I have a conference call and I don't need to be on that conference call, I don't need to be on my computer and share my screen, I might walk around my house and still be on the conference call. So, when things open up, it's okay to go out, run errands, meet friends for lunch. I think these are all things that people do in offices, and it doesn't really have to change if you're at home.
Yeah, so much for that going out to lunch with friends thing.
Yeah, not anymore. Right?
Bringing their own, meeting in your driveway.
For call center agents, and I know we have a lot of people that are either call center supervisors or call center agents on this call. So for call center agents, having a quiet space is crucial. A lot of the call center calls are recorded. So if you have a lot of background noise, those background noises are going to show up in the call recordings. And really, it's going to affect your performance when you're talking to the customers and having a conversation with your customers. For example, the door behind me, it's a hollow door, right? So whenever there's somebody walking down the hallway or going up and down the stairs, I can really hear a lot of background noise. So I'm actually thinking of replacing the door with a solid core door and making some changes to get a little bit more noise reduction in the space. The other thing that a lot of people do is maybe putting a sticker on the door, just saying that you're on a conference call or you're on the video call, and people don't barge in and start walking behind you, right? Before this happened, it was very unlikely that would happen because usually nobody's at home. And I think there was some guy about 3 months ago that was on a CNN interview, and his kids started running behind him. And it was live TV, so it really made a lot of noise. It went viral. That video is all over the place. But nowadays, everybody understands. Everybody understands that a lot of people are working from home. There's always going to be some background noise. But when things return to normal, especially if you're a call center agent, having a quiet space and making your space soundproof, it's going to help you in the long run. Anything else about that, Vince? I know you have worked with a lot of call centers as well. So any perspective on the call center and having a quiet space?
I think when this was first being done, people were real uptight about there had to be no interruptions and you had to have a private office that you could close a door. And now I feel like it's become much more relaxed, and interruptions with dogs and kids and things are just part of it. To me, it's almost like get over it. This is real life.
I agree. I agree. People have gotten much more relaxed, especially as of lately.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing that helps is having a headset that's has noise cancellation on it, right? Noise cancellation headsets really do a good job at cutting out some of those background noises.
Yes, the one that I use for phone calls is right here, and this really does a great job of canceling out just about everything. But it was a little more expensive, but I suggest something like this, and then it also has this light. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it tells when you're on the phone. You see it lights up, and that's handy for people when they walk up to you. They, if you're on the phone listening, they can't necessarily tell. And so any tools like that help people who are in the house know, this is not a good time to interrupt me. Not that dogs or kids will understand that.
Can you move over to the next slide, please? All right, so the next piece, since we're talking about headsets, is this idea of technology of training, right? So in the last month, we worked with several customers trying to set them up to working from home. And they all have different software, different contact center platforms, different collaboration platforms. But one thing that we took away is basically training. Before you send before you go home as a user, make sure that you had enough training. When you're working at home, you are somehow relying on your own technology skills, right? You're using your own internet. You're using everything that's installed in your PC. you should know how to do some basic troubleshooting. Right? Actually, right before I got on this call, I noticed that my video is going in and out. Right, so right before I got on this call, I spent 5 minutes rebooting all of my internet equipment. So my modem, my router, everything got rebooted so I can get the speed synced up and to the level I needed to do a video call. I had a customer about 3 months ago. They called us and they're like, oh, we have one of our agents that's working from home, but she cannot answer calls. The calls are not coming to her headset. So I called this agent, trying to do some troubleshooting. At the end of the day, it was just that her Bluetooth headset was disconnected from her laptop, right? They were using a soft phone, and for some reason, the Bluetooth headset got disconnected. And she hasn't been taking calls for a day and a half, right? So simple tasks like that, we should be able to handle ourselves, right? How to connect a headset to your computer. So you have to become your own tech support, right? In some regards. We also recommend using productivity tracking software that kind of breaks down how much time you're spending on each application, right? They'll tell you how much time you're spending on your call center software, how much time you're spending on, browsing the internet, and it really helps you break down the day too, because a lot of these tools tells you when to take a break as well. Blocking distractions is also very important. So distraction blocker software will allow you to block all the distraction from different software, whether it's Facebook, social media, and they usually work very good on mobile devices as well. The other thing is security and safety, right? A lot of organizations are bound by PCI and HIPAA laws, and now they're sending all these people working from home. You have to keep in mind that when you're at home, you're not behind a corporate firewall, right? So you have to use some common sense and not do things like do not leave your laptop unlocked, right? Try not to use your laptop for personal use. Avoid going to suspicious websites. If you have your VPN connected to your corporate network, that's really going to help you because you're connected to everything it's usually going through your corporate network, and it's going to help you stay protected the whole time. At the end of the day, I think it really helps being IT savvy and having some training before you go home. Anything else, Vince? I know there's a lot of stuff we can talk about in here, and the next slide, I think I have a bunch of tools that we recommend, but anything else in the general sense of what people should be doing when they're using technology and training?
No, I think you've covered the high points. I'm going to hit some of those same points again, but for a different purpose. So
okay, perfect. So as far as tools, right? All of our customers are collaboration and contact center customers, right? So in our practice, all we do, we help them deploy and be more productive using collaboration and contact center tools. So in our practice, after many years of research, the two products that we usually deploy are WebEx from Cisco and Genesys, the all-in-one cloud platform. So both of these tools have telephony and collaboration built in. So you can make phone calls, you can chat with your coworkers, you can do video calls, you can share your screen. With WebEx Meet, you can have meetings just like this one, where you can have multiple people join and be on the same screen and you can see them. And the beauty of WebEx and Genesys for the contact center customers is that if you want to layer contact center functionality on top of the collaboration functionality, it's very easy to do so. Everything is all in one, especially with Genesys, right? With Genesys, all you need to do to become a call center agent is basically just turn on an option in your configuration, and all of a sudden now you become a contact center agent. On top of that, we have other tools like Slack is very popular for collaboration as well. Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, right? But those don't offer the capability of having contact center on top of them. And all the tools that we're recommending here are all cloud-based. we worked with several customers in the past 3 weeks, trying to help them out to make the transition from being at the office and going at home. And one thing that we found out is that customers that had premise-based solutions had a much harder time making that transition, right? Customers that have already had some cloud-based contact center software or cloud-based collaboration, it was much easier because all you need is a computer. You don't need to worry about installed applications. All you need is a computer, a browser, sometimes a headset, and all you do is basically open up a browser and you have the whole application suite right there in the browser, right? And even if you don't have your laptop from work, you can still use one of your devices you have at home as well. Some other tools we have our customers using are cloud-based project management tools. Mobile apps are very important, especially if you are a salesperson and you're moving around. Knowing how to install and operate mobile apps, it's crucial. You have to be careful. I think a week ago there was an example of this of somebody that was on a video call and she took her iPhone with her in the bathroom, right? So whenever you're dealing with mobile apps, you have to use that common sense and make sure you're actually in a space where you can be on video. Time trackers, can help you track down time and track down your productivity, show your supervisors that you are actually getting things done. And the last thing is distraction blocker software, right? Today we live in a society where social media and news, especially this virus news, all over the place, right? So it's very easy to get distracted and end up watching CNN all day, right? So having that space where you go in and having those distraction blockers enabled, it's going to help you in the long run working from home. The other thing is that we don't have enough time in here to talk about all the applications that that are on this list. So we're actually going to send out an email that's going to have a list of all the applications that we recommend for working from home. One thing to note is that both Cisco and Genesys both are offering 90-day free trials right now. And actually, Genesys comes with a free 48-hour simple deployment. So they'll basically set up a couple of numbers, set up the queuing, do some training for agents, and they'll do all of that in 48 hours. So if you're a customer that is working from home right now, but you have a premise-based system and it doesn't work very well if you're working from home, feel free to reach out. Either me or Vince will be more than happy to talk to you and explore those ideas a little bit further. Anything there, Vince? I think I'm handing it back to you right now because that's the end of my slides, I believe.
I think that sounds good. And just in preparing for this meeting, we went through this webinar. We went through several trials, and then we even discussed backup plans. So, for example, if we start at noon and we're having problems, what's our plan B? Because there are times where things just don't go well at the top of the hour. Particularly in virtual meetings, where perhaps starting the meeting instead of at noon sharp, started at 12:10 or 12:15. In talking about team communications, I think never has it been more important than it is right now to participate in a meeting. Just simply nodding your head is not adequate, especially if it's just a conference call and not video. So you really need to speak up and make your presence known and participate. Getting dressed for business, I go both ways on that. Today, I really look forward to putting on a shirt that was pressed and had a button-down collar, and I was looking forward to that opportunity. There are other times when I enjoy just doing it in my workout clothes. So I think putting on a nice shirt and pants and a dress or whatever it is you're going to be wearing, getting shaved up and smelling good, can absolutely put a smile on your face and make you feel better and more professional. So it depends on what's in your world. Um, I don't think that as long as, again, if you need to make an impression with clients, then probably dressing right is the important thing to do. Um, Making a habit out of communicating with your team. And I think in the next webinar, we're going to touch on this even a little bit more about how to motivate people. How do you give somebody a pat on the back when they're not anywhere even close to where you are? Those are some things that we want to talk about coming up in positive ways to motivate and reinforce those good behaviors. Making a point to reach out to people on a regular basis is also, I think, an important part of that. Kleid, anything I'm missing there?
Yeah, so I think you did a great job, but by the way, but the only point is that when you're reaching out to people, when you're working from home, it's very different from being in the office, right? So when you're in the office, like whenever I stop into Jane's office, like Jane is our marketing director, she's on this call, like we end up having a 20-minute conversation, and usually it's not related to work, right? So I'm sharing something about my life, she's sharing something about her life, right? And we're naturally talking and having a conversation. Sometimes we're going out to lunch, right? We're going out to lunch with the coworkers, and naturally you're building those lifelong relationships. Well, when you're working from home, it's very important to, I think, overshare and over communicate, right? So even when it comes to your personal stuff, because I think it's gonna make you more successful in the long run, and it's gonna help with the isolation of being at home all day.
Yes. Thank you. So, and I'm glad you brought that back to this work at home discussion, because I think for many people, this whole concept of work at home is unprecedented. And there are many parts about what we're going through today that are unprecedented when it comes to the coronavirus and how we're going to protect ourselves. However, working at home is the way it always was prior to the industrial age beginning, which was only in the early 1900s. Before that, everyone, well, I'm going to say 80% of the population, 60 to 80% of the population, at least in the United States, worked from home. And, so really what we're seeing is just a pendulum. Now, admittedly, that pendulum swung back pretty darn quickly over the course of a couple of weeks, but still, it's just a pendulum coming back and figuring out this new normal. And keep in mind, this went back to the Renaissance period, where blacksmiths and countless professions were all home based. It is the idea that the centrality of the household as the primary support for families and for human association has been there for centuries. And now we've swung back to that, where, just last weekend, Sunday afternoon, Michelle and I went out for a walk, and there are people sitting in their driveways, all 6 feet apart in their lawn chairs, but talking. And I've seen pictures on the internet of people in apartment buildings where they open their apartment building doors and sit in the doorway with a cocktail at 6 o'clock and enjoy a cocktail hour quasi together. So there's different ways that we can connect. And I think just keeping an open mind and trying new things. In creating this at-home environment that works, playing soft music, or white noise, nature sounds. And for those of you who may have heard it initially when we got on the call, the birds behind me were going crazy for some reason. There was, okay, and there goes my daughter walking across the back. Oh my gosh. So, surrounding yourself with books and photos and good smells, make your environment a happy place, someplace that brings you peace. And that will help a lot. I know in the picture that's up on the screen, everyone's children behave exactly like that. They just sit there and do their work and they never interrupt anyone, right? Yeah, not quite.
I tried to get my kids to saw some curtains over the weekend. It didn't work out very well.
Um, so now in talking about your mental and social health, um, these, you talked about the separation and creating physical separation. And while I think that absolutely is important, um, by and large, the biggest thing we have to come up with is the integration of work and family. How do these two serve each other? And dealing with interruptions not as problems, but as opportunities. And I think a lot of it has to do with how we um, how we react to it, and making it a positive. The idea of taking breaks on a frequent basis is critical to your long-term success. Taking breaks with your partner or assuming you have somebody at home with you to make a meal together and share a laugh on an ongoing basis. That's also part of the benefit of doing this. Embracing those close relationships that you had at work. And I like to think of the various mediums we have for communication these days with video calls and text as like 1, 2, 3. So um, video would be something that you use perhaps less frequently because of the time and it takes to set it up. Maybe for every 3 text messages, you make a couple of phone calls and then complement that in with a video call so that you're conscious. It's not just always text messaging. It's not just always electronic media, whether, no matter what it is. But you take the time to get face to face with your coworkers, your friends, and your family who you're maybe not going to see as much. And then growth. This can't just be maintain what we've got. Continuing to make new friends and rekindle those old ones. Going online for group exercise. Kleid, I know you've been doing that. I haven't been doing that very much because I'm a runner and typically I enjoy the solitude that comes with that. However, trying different things. I saw something online the other day where this whole apartment building had people outside on their balconies doing the same exercises. And it was awesome that there was a real community.
I think our gym is actually offering virtual classes. So they're having WebEx meetings where the same people that are in the class usually are joining via video calls. And it's just interesting. It works, right? We're doing it in our basement, but it's still the same people. You're still talking to people. You're still seeing their faces. You're getting a good workout, and you're keeping the relationship going, right? Even though you're not going to the gym.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Getting out of the house is critical to long-term success. And I mean that on a regular basis, absolutely every day, and perhaps even more than once. Finding new places to go for a walk. If there's a park in the neighborhood or a lake, Michelle and I found a lake yesterday that we didn't know was there. That had a trail around it, and that was pretty darn cool. And then lastly, turning off the news and at times social media. When it comes to the news, anything really important, your friends are going to let you know. And in the meantime, it's just so much noise. So sure, you want to spend some time, catch up every day, whether that's at the beginning or the end, but there absolutely have to be times in the middle where it just frankly doesn't matter. It's not changing all that rapidly. Kleid, anything there that I...
No, I think you did a great job covering the slide, so thank you.
Okay. So I want to open this up for question and answers now. Also make a point of saying that our next topic is going to be on management, motivation, and relationship in a remote workplace. We're going to dive into that subject specifically in much greater depth. And there's those birds. Talk about nature sounds. So that's going to be Thursday, April 16th. So do we have any questions? I think we can take those in writing, or perhaps.
Or you can raise your hand and basically we'll unmute you so we can have a conversation.
Oh, that'd be fun. Except you can't say any cuss words. There's no cussing.
There's a 90-second delay here. Second delay.
Yes. So let's, I don't have access to see that right now. I'm just, you got to be smarter than I'm seeing if any chats come in, I guess. Kim, how would those come in? Are they going to come in as a chat?
Yeah, I actually have the window open. So if anybody wants to type questions in on the bottom right of their screen where it says Q&A.
Kleid, I have a question for you. What's the biggest challenge that you've had to address? Maybe not the biggest. What are one of the challenges that you've had to address since being at home all the time now?
I mean, having the kids around, like even though, like I said earlier, I was used to working at home with my kids in the summer because my wife's a teacher. But they were having play dates and activities all day long, right? Now they're always here. And my son has a basketball hoop in the basement, and it just likes to play on it all day long. And when I work, I like my space to be really quiet. I usually have the lights off. I'm like a vampire, right? I need to be completely focused. And just having them running around the house all day has been the most challenging thing for me.
Yes. And how are you dealing with it? How have you overcome that?
Yeah, the biggest thing is having a space. Like right now, I'm in this room which I turned into an office. Right before, my office used to be in the basement, but it's way too open. There's no door in there, so I turned this room last 2 weeks into an office. I have a door. I put some insulation around the door, and I think this weekend I'm going to replace the door behind me from a hollow core to a solid core door to just cut down on that noise a little bit more.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Hey guys, we have one question. In all the years of being at home and working, what was the best thing that's come out of it?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it has been relationship. The relationship in our family is so positive. Um, we are just together on a regular basis. I remember when our daughter was young, you saw her walk by now, and she's 20, but we've been doing this for well over a decade. So being there in elementary school and middle school at 3:30 to see her come in and say hi, and and of course there are times when you're on a conference call, and so you just have to wave, and that kind of thing. But those are far and few between. Most of the time, it was being there to get things started and on the right foot. And I didn't have that. I was a latchkey kid, so when I came home from school, there was nobody there, which was a positive for me in some ways. So I don't know. In the last decade, I think that's been it. And knowing that we were able to do that for our team members as well, that they have enjoyed the opportunity to be with their families all day. The cost savings is significant, not just on the company side of not having the big office and all that, but on the personal side of less transportation costs, clothing, meals. I mean, there's so many things that you save money on. I'm sure everybody is feeling that right now. It's like, oh my gosh, if we get one meal a week out now, that's a lot. Whereas in the past, it was dinner 2, 3, 4 nights a week and a couple, 3 or 4 lunches. And now it just, I I don't know where the money's, there's so much money in our checking account, I don't know what to do with it all. I'm kidding about that. I'm kidding.
I have some ideas.
Hi,
Yeah,
we've got
on my side here too, I share the same feeling, being able to always have the kids around and pick them up from school. But I spend a portion of my day actually doing engineering and development work. So um, having a quiet space and being at home by myself really helps me focus, right? When I'm in the office, we have cubicles and we have shared offices and people are walking around all day. And as far as doing development and engineering work, it doesn't really work out if you're in an open space in an office. So being at home with nobody here has been very, very successful to help me get my work done.
I've got a question for the both of you, actually. Can you elaborate more on the integration of work and family a little bit? What are some examples of viewing it as an opportunity versus an interruption? That's a really good question because my kids are losing it behind me right now. So I would be interested in your answer as well.
So the integration of work and family is about a mindset, as much as it is anything. It's, when something happens that that would normally be an interruption, and you just, like in the office, you would not expect someone to interrupt you in the middle of a meeting. Um, at home, that's going to happen. And you, instead of freaking out, and just that internal turmoil, it's just, okay, yeah, how can I help you? No, I can't do that. Give me 5 more. I saw Jimmy Fallon the other day was interviewing Jennifer Garner, and his little daughter comes running in right while he's on TV, and he has to say, "Hey, sweetheart, how you doing?" And she's like, "Can you help me, Baba?" He goes, "Yes, give me just 5 more minutes, and then I'll be right there." Um, as Kleid pointed out, the integration of family means it's okay to say, you know what, I can't do that 3:30 conference call, or I'm sorry, the 3:30 video call, because I'm going to go pick up my daughter. Or some other thing. We've got a noon walk schedule that it's on the calendar that we're going on a family walk at noon, and business is we've got a schedule around it. So that's the integration, is where everything is equally balanced. Now, there are certain times when, yeah, you know what, that's a really important meeting, and we may have to delay something else that we had planned. But it's finding that balance and prioritizing both. Kleid, I don't know if you have any comments.
And for me, I agree with almost everything you said, but my kids are a little younger, right? But being around them this past 2 weeks, they really are starting to understand what I actually do, because I don't think that before they knew what I actually did for a living. So now they have an idea. They're taking a little more interest. They're asking questions, and it's not like I was going away for 8 hours and then showing up at 5 o'clock. Now they kind of know what's going on in my life as well, right? So I see like an opposite interest. They're showing interest in what's going on with me versus me as a parent just showing interest towards them.
Yes. That one picture that I put up where, it is from the pre-industrial era, where the mom had the children around helping with what she was working on. If somebody can, I have not figured that out, but if there's a way to get the kids involved in the computer setup, or holding the video camera, or something that they can do and feel an active participant, I think that's going to be the key to making this really successful, super successful for families that can do that.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting you brought that up, because just in the last 2 weeks, my son was asking me, is there any way you can make some extra money, right? And I just signed him up for a website called Fiverr. So basically, you pay $5 for a gig, and I signed up on there to basically record prompts in kids' voices, right? So in the last 3 weeks, I think he's gotten 2 gigs and has made like $15, basically just recording prompts in kids' voices. So it's given me the opportunity to actually connect with him and help him. And whenever a job comes in, I help him set up a microphone and do the audio editing. We work together on that.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. What a great idea.
I think that's it for questions. Vince and Clade, if you kind of want to talk about the next topic a little bit, just to wrap it up, that would be awesome. And we can let everybody get on their way this afternoon.
Terrific. Well, in the next session, I think we want to address some of those critical issues. I mentioned it once before, how do you pat somebody on the back when they're nowhere even close to you? What is it, what are the KPIs that are important to measure in a remote working environment? A lot of, if the systems in place have been good systems, a lot of them you can still use for contact centers. The call recording, screen recording can be an issue or it can be easy. Just that, developing the relationship, improving relationship in a remote environment is a little bit different. And I think those are the things that we want to dive into in our next session. Again, April 16th at noon. And I think, Clay, anything from you? Anything closing?
I think you covered it all. So.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending today. We appreciate your time. We hope you got one thing, just one thing you can use and implement in your home office environment or in your business. And then we accomplished our goal. Thank you all, and be safe, be well.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.